Today is February 26, 2020. I've been agonizing over this video because I felt things from within pushing at me to bring forth some, I don't want to say predictions, but intuitive premonitions of what is going on, not only in our country, but on a global basis. And I'm just going to light my candle here. I like to start with a prayer that the highest truth comes forth in the reading, and that the guides only from the highest light bring wisdom to my soul to be hopefully and helpfully assisting your soul. So I watched the debate last night. I made a few comments on the debate. I kept returning again to this Saturn Pluto conjunction, which I feel is affecting not only the United States, as I said before, but affecting us globally. And the last time that we had this, I was doing some history here, study, the very last time that we had Saturn conjunct Pluto in Capricorn was November 1517. Look how long ago that was, 503 years ago. And it went to February 15, 18, and June to October 15, 18. So there were the three transits. And the most profound thing, if you remember, I was talking specifically about the United States, that there was going to be a lot of karmic retribution in the United States. But there's not just going to be a karmic retribution in our country. The retribution is a reflection, a destruction of existing belief systems and ways that we've gone way off track, a smashing of those, I wouldn't call them value systems, as a lack of value systems. And at the time, in 1518, this was when the African slave trade began. So you see how the cycle of the universe comes around, because many countries were involved in that slave trade, not just the United States. The slaves were transported to all different places in the world. At the same time, the Protestant Reformation began, and there was also at the same time what they called a sweating illness in England, which hit Oxford and Cambridge. So there was in another part of the Europe, in Strasbourg, there was also a plague. So it's kind of interesting that we have the imminent impression that the coronavirus is not going to go away, that it's in its inception stage, and that we've got ahead of us quite the road to trek. And I felt this Saturn Pluto, as I've told you, for over 2 years. Many astrologers have acknowledged the profundity of such a meeting up. Saturn is ruled by Capricorn, and Saturn on the good side is the discipline, the creation of solid structures, value systems, and institutions that will forward humanity. On the downside, it represents exceedingly high ambition, which leads to materialism. Its symbol is of the devil with horns, it's a malefic, negative, coming to Jesus moment, as far as it's bringing forth the karmic pile up of all that has been done globally, or in this particular sign with Pluto, over the last 500 years. So I was talking before about the fact that the American Constitution was written at a time when we actually owned slaves and were living under the influence of talking about freedom, but actually annihilating to a great degree, the American Indian, and having our country be built on the back of people that we literally owned. So it's not surprising that Pluto coming around has said, have you changed all that? Have you cleaned that out of your cupboard? Have you made retribution to these peoples that you took advantage of? And so the different societies, instead, when Pluto came in on top of Saturn in Capricorn, when these two planets come together, everything is intensified. And because we had not cleaned house, but instead have become more racist in the last few years, because Pluto comes along and it says, okay, you've got this chance to clean up your act, to create a new cycle, to make retribution to people that you hurt. And because that was not accomplished, instead we were colder and lacking empathy to other races, other nationalities, locking them out, putting children in cages. We did things to exacerbate the effect of Pluto on our country. So it's almost as though we brought in at a dynamic level a representation as our leader of that energy of materialism, oppression, bigotry, and lack of empathy. We brought that in to have it in our face, to get off our high horse, to move out of our ego, because Pluto smashes the ego. So it literally took the country and smashed a lot of the ego of the country itself. In other words, the darkness, I'm going to turn that off because there's something, there we go. The darkness, I wrote some notes here, became all encompassing so that we could not any longer ignore it. So you can't blame it all on the president, because there was a massive racist support of the president. And then in Senate, there was an absolute denial of truth, integrity, and dignity by the Republican Party. So on the bright side of things, because we cannot ignore it, Pluto's conjunction to Saturn empowers us with a passion to change it. We might have been more lethargic about making changes, about the hidden, buried racism, were it not that we had such a glaring example right in our face. And so Pluto as the planet of death and decay, and Saturn as the planet representing the government, hierarchies, structures, the banking systems, it helps us to destroy what may look like existing institutions that we held dear, but within all of those institutions, especially the government, there was a great corruption existing, which is being, very strongly viewed right now. So in this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, it's really about a revolution. Now, when we think of revolution, we think of Bernie Sanders, or we think of a revolution like the American Revolution, we think of some death and destruction before there's rebirth. Things may seem very negative at the moment, but let's face it, where's my other page here? It is a temporary negativity, and it's necessary in order for us as a world, not just as a country, as a world, to rebuild a society that is positive and fair to all peoples and to all sentient beings, to all of life. So we do get a Saturn-Pluto conjunction every 33 to 34 years, but we do not get a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. We get that every approximately 500 years. So we looked at the coronavirus because I think the coronavirus, again, linking back to that period in 1518 when we had the sweating sickness, very similar to the coronavirus, very similar. And I would just like to draw a card on this virus and the lesson of this virus. Personally, I feel the virus was created, but would not, it's been proven that the virus was created in a lab in China. This is that the doctors that actually created it, one of them actually died, and it was not meant to get out. It was sort of like a chemical warfare. This is what I've heard. Don't have 100% verification on that, but it feels right. But the reason the virus is so extensive and so capable to affect us is that we have such lowered immune systems for many, many reasons. Our value system, our promiscuity has our exposure to a poisoned environment, our exposure to a multitude of vaccines, whether you believe in vaccines or not, a vaccine every single year is definitely having its effect on our immune system. Our exposure to less oxygen in the air. For example, they said that China is probably the most polluting country in the world, and in the last 3 weeks they shut down a lot of factories. So 25% of the emissions that were being sent out into the atmosphere immediately were cleared because they were operating at a lower percentage of performance over there. So it just shows you that, and so the oxygen that we're taking into our body all over the world with the destruction of our rainforests, and I could go on and on about the environment. This is not totally to be about the environment today, but that is also creating a major entree into our body, that the virus has a resting place because it we don't have the same strength in our bodies that we used to have. So, and it's also teaching us, have we looked after our bodies? Have we looked after our health? Where is that, how is that going to affect us now that there's something out there that, because viruses cannot be treated with antibiotics, they have to be treated with specific antidotes. And also, we've taken so many antibiotics that I'm sure if other complications resulted from the coronavirus, the immune system is so used to antibiotics, we'd have to get something hyper strong. So, and then I was talking earlier about promiscuity and the fact that promiscuity, not just from a moral standpoint, but from a standpoint of our immune systems, it has not been healthy for our body to receive so many partners and to interchange so many fluids. That also has been affecting us as far as taking on the bacterial attack into our own body. You could only handle so much. And I remember a gynecologist saying to me that, especially from age 13 to 20, the body is developing its own antibodies, and so when it has a lot of sexual partners, it doesn't have all the antibodies capable to deal with that, and so it can cause a lot of problems in the physical body as far as having a strong immune system. So there are layers of values and ethics and ways that we've acted and interacted with each other, plus the karmic aspects that we are not going to survive as a world. The world itself will survive, but as a humanity is not going to survive unless we make drastic changes. So Pluto coming along and hitting Saturn, that's creating a profound, it can create many things. It can create oppression in the world, it can create new wars, it can create disease, it can create injustice. But out of that, it's like turning over the rock, and all this stuff is interfaced, and we are forced to make change. And that's why I think a lot of people are not as much, the establishment is freaking out over Bernie, but the actual gut level of society is not as much bothered by Bernie. Just act, my dog's at the door. Got you guys. You guys always have to come in and interrupt when Mama's on a topic. Okay. So, anyway, just gonna put this up a little bit. It fell down. There we go. So, I would like to ask right now the main soul card about the coronavirus, because I know a lot of people are calling me about it, asking me about it in readings, and are deeply concerned over it. This is a card of all that is right now is being dissolved, and sort of, it's kind of like you took the value system, the structures, and the way the world has operated over the last 500 years, and you took a crusher and you just crushed it, and then as a potter, you're going to mold it all back. But the way it's molded back is going to be completely different than what we think it's going to be. It's like a whole new evolution of society is going to rise out of this profound crushing and eliminating and exposing energy of these two planets coming into such force. And the other thing that's happening is that Mars is going to come up and square this, the end of March. It's going to be in Aries, and it's going to square, right now Mars is in Capricorn, but it's going to come up and it's going to square Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter. That's going to bring forth a lot of heated force of energy that's going to further, almost like create a molten lava of our emotions. So I have to always refer back spiritually that what is occurring outside of us needed to be changed inside of us as a humanity, as all the races on Earth have to create a new structure to how we honor, face the Earth, help the Earth, work along with the Earth, the oceans, and each other, and the creatures. There's going to be a profound shift in all of that over the next, I don't know, could be a few years. I'm not saying the coronavirus would take a few years. I'm saying the actual shift could go as long as up to 2024. We are having at the end of this year, December, I think it's December 20th, Jupiter going into Aquarius and Saturn going into Aquarius, conjuncting each other, and many are predicting that this is the seeds being sown of the new age in real time. So it's not to get depressed or feel this is the ends of time. I don't get that feeling. I get a feeling more of just Pluto causes purification. It causes rectification. It causes, like we say, the phoenix doesn't just rise. At first, the scorpionic energy burns everything away that's no longer serving us. And then the phoenix rises from the ashes of its own self-immolation. It's a new creature entirely. This is for all of us. Every one of us. When I looked at the debate last night, I had a really concerned feeling about the health of Bernie Sanders. I'm not at this time throwing my hat into the ring with anybody. I'm honoring the different aspects of what people are bringing to the table and why they're there to give their part. But I did feel a fatigue and the body pushed and held together solely by his spirit, his valiant spirit, and his authenticity to his own, what he thinks is right and wrong for our world right now. So it would be good to pray for him, no matter what your views on whether you wish him to be the next president or not. He's a good person who cares. I also felt that our president's health is not the greatest, but I felt he was stronger than Bernie. I also felt Joe Biden's health was not totally strong. There were a few of them out there. William Barr's health, I did not feel was very strong. There are a few out there that are tiptoeing. The reason I felt Bernie is going is, you know, the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak, but I just felt his spirit was pushing everything forward no matter what the body was doing. So I'd like to ask what we could do right now to help ourselves to get through this incredibly potent time. What can we individually do? I take this card as the card of duality. The card of this side and that side, the polarity. But in this card, they are not seeing the polarity. They are putting their heads together with their eyes closed as to who the other person is as far as their words go. They have a hand on their heart. So they're coming from the heart. And I take it really, really, they're joined at the crown, which is showing the union of all of humanity. They're joined at the crown. They're joined at the spirit level of being. This is where our spirit reaches upward, where the divine energy enters us. And the biggest message that I get is they're helping each other, and they're uniting, and they're not looking at the differences. This is the best way right now that we can move forward, is to stop criticizing the other side, to focus on your vision, and to help whoever is within the perimeter of your life. Who is around you right now that you could help? Even if that person is not acting in the most perfect manner, but you see, when you look at it, instead of judging it, instead of criticizing it, you let your merciful heart, you ask yourself within, how can I help? Because these people that are in my face, they're in my face for a reason. They're here for me to, if they're in my face, there's something that I need to do about it to make a difference here. I have people around me right now, one in particular, that it's very challenging, but I know that in my heart of hearts, the only way to move forward on a daily basis in the moment is to have forgiveness and mercy and pray, not in a sanctimonious place that I'm better than, but that that person really needs help. And I'm here, so obviously it's part of my life too. I'd like to end there. I'm going to be doing a few videos this week because I want to talk about the debate last night and what I felt went on at a soul level and where I feel it's all going. That'll be in the next video. Thank you. God be with you. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like a personal reading, I'm here for you. A lot of people are going through a lot right now. I've been really, really busy, so give me a little notice. Contact me at angelicmercy44@gmail.com. Thank you. God be with you.